So, Chicago Bulls season preview. Last year, they finished with a 31-41 record, which meant they were the 11th seed in the East and didn't even make the play-in, which has to be considered pretty disappointing given they gave up 2 picks in a trade for Nikola Vucevic midseason. Yes, they did struggle with some COVID protocol, but many teams did. But this offseason, they were quite busy. They started up by giving up the 8th pick because of the Vucevic trade, which has to hurt. But they drafted Ayo Dosunmu in the second round, who could be good. I don't really know. They signed Lonzo Ball to a 4-year, $85 million deal. They signed DeMar DeRozan to a 3-year, $85 million deal. And they also signed Alex Caruso to a 4-year, $37 million deal. They also got Tony Bradley and Derrick Jones Jr. So quite a few additions, quite a bit of money spent, and definitely a team going and trying to make the playoffs this season. In the process, they lost Lauri Markkanen, Thad Young, Tomas Satoransky, Daniel Tice, and some other role players. So overall, quite a big roster overhaul this summer. And, they definitely got better. The question is, did they get better enough to, really make a step forwards? And just where is that step forwards to? How good are they? If I think about a projected lineup at point guard, Lonzo Ball, last season he averaged 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, shooting 38% from 3 on 8 attempts a game. So I think his role is a bit under question with this Bulls team. I think obviously he's going to be very important to them defensively because a lot of their recent acquisitions between DeRozan and Vucevic have been very offensive-minded, as well as LaVine not being a good defender. Means that there's going to be a lot of defensive responsibility on Lonzo and Patrick Williams in the bench. So I think that will be one of the biggest reasons Lonzo will be effective, and it'll be one of his biggest responsibilities. I think the 3-point shooting is also very important, as he's going to have to play off-ball quite a bit with LaVine and DeRozan likely dominating the ball on offense. And my question is sort of like, is he just going to be a 3-and-D guy? I'm not saying that's a bad thing because he shoots a good percentage from 3 and is a very good defender, but I feel like there's always been more in terms of playmaking in the open floor, making the extra pass, doing some stuff off the dribble. So will he be allowed to do that? I think it'd be a good balance if he has some responsibility in the open floor, being able to play make, being able to throw lobs to Zach LaVine. Whereas in the half court, he's more of an off-ball player with LaVine and DeRozan dominating the ball, and I think that's okay. But I just want him to get enough transition possessions and still doing some stuff in the half court, whether it's be coming off screens or running some weak side pick and roll, or just being involved in the actions and not standing in the corner, because they are paying him over $20 million a year. At shooting guard, Zach LaVine averaged 27 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds last year. A very good scorer, someone who can score on all 3 levels, but still struggles with playmaking and defense. And I think the question is really if he can be part of a winning team, because he hasn't showed that yet in his NBA career. I think his scoring is obviously important to this team. I think, he is a good efficiency, high volume scorer, but I think he also needs to work on his playmaking and his defense, because though he has improved a little bit on both of those things, they're still a bit lackluster in terms of getting tunnel vision, not seeing the open pass, making a wrong pass. And then defensively, he's a good on-ball defender, but off-ball, he often falls asleep. And those are the types of mistakes that are going to cost this Bulls team defensively, which is something they can't really afford, given that they already project to be a poor defensive team with Vucevic as their center and DeRozan and LaVine on the roster. At small forward, DeMar DeRozan averaged 21.5 points a game last year to go along with 4 rebounds and 7 assists. Really developed as a playmaker and showed that side of his game. He is a good offensive player inside the arc in terms of finishing around the rim, getting to the free throw line, and shooting from the mid-range. He is not a good 3-point shooter or defender, which are 2 things that are pretty important in the modern NBA. But I think, one thing about this Bulls team is if they allow DeRozan to be on ball in the half court, which I do expect with him not being a good shooter. More of his value is on ball. The spacing is actually really good between Lonzo, LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic, all being, average to about above average to great 3-point shooters. So I think that could open up a lot of driving lanes that have not been open in DeMar's career, and I think playing with other good offensive players, I expect his efficiency to skyrocket in this new Bulls offense. I think his playmaking could be very valuable too. I think the Bulls do have a lot of good passers in the starting lineup too. They're all Lonzo, LaVine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic are all capable passers, with I would consider Lonzo, DeRozan, and Vucevic great passers. So I think while this team does have good isolation scores in LaVine and DeRozan, I'm excited to see if they get some motion, get some playmaking, and get some creative ways to move the ball going. Because I think that would be very good in terms of getting Lonzo and Patrick Williams involved, and also making sure that the stars DeRozan and LaVine are getting efficient looks. So overall, I think this is a good situation for DeRozan, especially offensively with the spacing. But yeah, we'll see about defense. I don't think DeRozan's a good defender. So that's just the big worry with this team overall. At power forward, Patrick Williams, someone who had a pretty promising rookie year, averaged 9 points and 4.5 rebounds. And my question is if he can take another step. I think he definitely can, but I think it's going to have to be more defensive, given that a lot of the offense I expect to be dominated by DeRozan and LaVine. I think Patrick Williams has showed some stuff off the dribble and with his shot, but it's not quite going to be super efficient yet. But I'd like to see him maybe get some run with the bench, so he can demonstrate those skills, because I think he does have a very high ceiling, maybe not Kawhi level, but certainly someone who could be maybe a borderline all-star and a really good defender in the future. And then at center, Nikola Vucevic averaged 21.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 4 assists with the Bulls. And I just hope he's able to be involved in the offense enough, because some of it is going to be spotting up. That's just the way it is when you have two high usage guys in LaVine and DeRozan. But Vucevic is skilled, and Vucevic needs some post touches. He's going to get pick and roll. He's going to get pick and pop. But I'd like to see some of the offense run through him at the elbow. I'd like to see him get post touches. I'd like to see him screen and space out to the 3-point shot. Maybe even some off-ball movement. I think he's a very versatile offensive player. You can run your offense through him. He can shoot the 3. So I think, I just hope he gets the ball enough so that he can keep producing at, a near all-star level. The bench, Kobe White, last season averaged 15 points a game. We'll see with him. I think, he could provide some shooting and offense off the bench, but given that he's not a good defender, I can't imagine too many lineups where it's him, LaVine, and DeRozan on the court at the same time, because that would just be terrible defensively. Alex Caruso, I think, is very important to this team, because he is probably the best perimeter defender, him or Lonzo. I think when they need more defense, they're going to turn to him, and he's also a great team player, willing to dive for loose balls, do all the little things. And I think, I expect their net rating to be a lot higher when Caruso is on the floor. Derrick Jones Jr., who they recently acquired, I think gives them some athleticism, gives them sort of a wing defender. I think he could be a good bench piece. And then, Troy Brown Jr., Tony Bradley should provide sufficient cover for guys like Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan. So I think they're not a super deep team, but I think between Caruso and Derrick Jones Jr. and Kobe White, I think they'll have enough bench stuff. I think, maybe they should look to trade Kobe White, because they sort of already have shot creators like LaVine and DeRozan, and I feel that he still has okay value, and I think they'd be better off with another defensive player, maybe like a defensive power forward, someone like that who can really help them out on the defensive end of the court. So we'll see about that. I think offensively it'll work really well. I've talked about how the spacing is good, how they have lots of guys who can pass, how they have lots of guys who can score. I think overall, while there will be an adjustment period, I think they'll be a good offensive team. But the question is just if they can stop anyone, and with LaVine, Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic, I'm not too confident. So if I were to give a prediction, I think they'll be a good offensive team, but like a bottom 10 defense. And overall, I think it'll even out, and my prediction is that they'll be the 8 seed in the East. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.